My name is Samir. I am 35 years old. I have 3 children, and all 3 study in good schools in the city. I love my children very much and work very hard for their good future. I have my own clothing shop, but these days the business is not doing well. My marriage was with my friend. She is very beautiful, but her tongue is very sharp. Whatever comes to her mind, she says it directly on people's faces, whether the other person likes it or not. I often try to make her understand that she should not behave like this. Even if someone's words hurt you, you should not say things directly to their face. But she never understands my point. She says that she is not a coward, rather she is brave, because she tells people their faults directly to their faces. But I never liked this habit of hers. Most of the time, I used to ignore her words, but because of these habits, these days I had started keeping some distance from her. At the very least, a person should think before speaking that their words might hurt the other person. These days, because my shop was not doing well, I had become very worried. However, I was a man who believed in God. Before opening my shop, I used to perform God's arti, praying that my business would flourish. But now it felt as if God had become angry with me. Days were passing like this. One day, I was sitting in my shop. Not a single customer had come. It was already afternoon, but I had not seen even one customer. It was summer, and because of the heat, I was in a terrible condition. The electricity had also gone. I was fanning myself with my hand. My eyes were fixed on the clothing shop across the road, where customers were coming one after another and leaving after buying a lot. It was not that my shop was small or that I lacked clothes. I had every kind of fabric available, yet people rarely came to my shop. I was still staring at that shop when suddenly, from one side, a beggar woman came and stood in front of my shop, stretching out her hand and asking for something. But my attention was still fixed on the shop across the road. In my heart, I immediately complained to God, what was lacking in my shop, why no one came to me. Just then, the beggar said in a loud voice, "Sir, please give me some clothes." Hearing her sharp and loud voice, I was startled and looked at her. And then I just kept looking at her. She was a tall, young, and beautiful woman. She was wearing a worn-out old suit that had become quite dirty. On her feet were old slippers. Yet, on her fair complexion, a nose ring was shining, which looked very beautiful on her round face. There was dirt on her face in many places, yet she still looked good. When I looked at her, I just kept staring. There was so much innocence on her face that my heart could not get enough of looking at her. Seeing me lost, she said again, "Sir, please give me some clothes. I am a beggar." Hearing her request, I came back to my senses and paid attention to her. With great interest, she was looking at the clothes displayed in my shop. I said, "I will give you clothes, but first tell me who you are." She took her eyes off the clothes, looked at me, and said, "My name is Gopi." I was a fool. I found her name very sweet. I asked her again where she had come from. She told me that her shelter was at a deserted place some distance away from here. She lived there in a hut. After hearing this, I nodded my head and took out a beautiful suit and gave it to her. When I gave her the clothes, she became very happy and put them into her bag. "Thank you, sir," she said. She placed the dupatta I had given her over her head and said, "I look good, don't I?" She truly looked very lovely in that dupatta. I said, "Yes, you look good." She thanked me once again. She folded the clothes, put them in her bag, and while humming softly to herself, walked out of the shop and went on her way. I was still lost in her humming and the happiness spread across her face. Only 5 minutes had passed since she left when another woman came into my shop to buy clothes. I put the beggar woman out of my mind and started showing clothes to that customer. I had barely finished with her when 2 or 3 more women arrived and began looking at clothes. And then the chain started. Before one customer could leave, another would arrive. This continued throughout the day. The number of customers at my shop kept increasing. 11 customers bought at least 56 suits. I no longer had time to sit and watch how many customers were coming and going at the shop across the road. All day long, there was a line of customers at my shop. By evening, all my clothes had been sold. For the first time, after handling so many customers and looking at my nearly empty shop, I was shocked at how all this had happened. In just one day, so many customers had come and the entire shop had been emptied. I gathered all the money and bought a large stock of clothes to refill my shop. I brought the remaining money home and told my wife everything. She was also very surprised and thanked God. The next day, as per routine, I reached my shop again and started waiting for customers. But that day too, the beggar woman was the first to stand in front of my shop. I was shocked to see that she was wearing the same dirty suit she had worn the day before. Even though I had given her a new suit yesterday, she still came wearing the same old dirty clothes. Yet, she started to look good to me. Just seeing her made my heart feel a little lighter. Just like yesterday, she again said, "Sir, please give me some clothes." She asked for clothes in such soft and sweet words that I could not refuse her. On top of that, her beautiful face did not let me say no. Without saying anything, I gave her clothes again. Today, she placed the dupatta I gave her over her head. The clothes were blue, and the dupatta was also blue, and this color looked especially beautiful on her fair complexion. She again asked, "Sir, I look good, don't I?" I said, "Yes, you look very good." As soon as she heard my words, she quickly picked up the clothes and walked out of the shop. I kept looking at her for a long time. After she left, once again my shop filled with customers. I remained busy with them all day. One customer after another kept coming. I became tired. Then it was time for lunch, but the crowd showed no sign of decreasing. I thought that I wouldn't be able to manage alone, so I decided to hire a boy to help. That day too, my earnings were far more than I had expected. I was very happy. That same evening, I hired a boy to work at my shop. I told him that I would give him a monthly salary. He agreed, and thus he started working at my shop. Life continued as per routine, and my shop kept progressing day by day. But during all this, the beggar woman continued to come every day and take clothes from me for free. Yet I never saw her wearing any of the new suits that I gave her. She did not wear even one of them. Instead, she always came wearing the same dirty old suit. One day, I asked her why she never wore the clothes that I gave her. She laughed it off and avoided the question, then took new clothes from me and left again. I was very impressed by her beauty and simply could not refuse her. I had never mentioned this matter at home. I had not told my wife about the beggar woman. I knew that the moment my wife heard about it, she would start lecturing me, asking why I gave clothes for free, and would tell me not to give her clothes anymore. The beggar woman came every day wearing old clothes and left with a new suit. But as soon as she left, my shop would fill with customers. I would not even get time to scratch my head. My shop progressed very rapidly. There was now an abundance of money in my house. I was very surprised. Why did a crowd of customers gather at my shop only after the beggar woman came? This had never happened before. Earlier, I used to sit idle all the time and keep looking at the shop across the road, which was always crowded. Because of this greed, I kept giving. Then one day, when she came to my shop and said, "Sir, please give me new clothes," I took out a new suit and extended it toward her. But just as she reached out her hand to take the suit, I caught her hand. I told her, "First tell me who you are and what you do with these clothes. Only then will I give you the clothes." Hearing this, she became nervous and said, "I wear them." I said a little angrily, "I have never seen you wearing new clothes. Instead, you always come dressed in dirty, torn old clothes." She said, "Sir, I am collecting these clothes for my wedding." Hearing this, I felt that maybe she was telling the truth. So, silently, I handed the clothes to her. She took the clothes and walked away, but I had made up my mind to find out the truth about her. I made the boy who worked at my shop sit at the shop, then I took off my jeans and shirt and picked out a new kurta pajama from my own shop and wore it. I put a mask on my face. Seeing me change my appearance like this, the boy working with me was shocked and asked why I was doing all this. But I did not answer his question. I told him to take care of the shop and stepped outside. I looked to my right and saw her walking away from me. I quickly increased my pace and followed her. On the way, she stopped at different places and asked people for money. From some she asked for food items, from others she asked for things of daily need, filling her bag, and then moved on. I kept following her secretly so that I could learn everything. Until now, she had not suspected me because I had changed my appearance. I was only a short distance behind her when I saw her go up to some children. She put down her bag, talked to the children for a while, gently stroked their hair, and then moved on again. She was walking on foot, so I also had to follow her on foot. After continuously walking for half an hour, she reached a deserted place where there was hardly any population. There were some huts built there, and she was heading toward those huts. The huts were built far apart from each other, and there was a curtain hanging in front of each hut, which made it difficult to see inside. I kept following her until she reached one hut. She pulled aside the curtain, and what I saw made my heart almost stop. Inside the hut, small children were sitting and crying. There was also a young girl with them, trying to calm the children. Seeing so many children inside the hut, I became suspicious. Those children could not possibly all be hers, because she did not even look married. So did that mean she was a child kidnapper? Surely she must have stolen all these children and was now keeping them under her control. Either she would demand money from their parents in exchange for them, or she would force them into begging along with her and earn money, or it was also possible that she sold these children illegally. All these thoughts started running through my mind, and now I began to regret feeling sympathy for her. I was cursing myself for having melted after seeing her innocent and beautiful face and for having given her free clothes for so long. I was hiding behind a tree, blaming myself, while my eyes were fixed on the beggar woman standing ahead, who was saying something to the young girl. The girl nodded her head and replied to her. The children kept crying, so the beggar woman took fruits out of her bag and gave them to everyone. All the children were approximately between 3 and 10 years old. I was still watching when the curtain of the neighboring hut was pulled aside, and an old woman came out. I saw that there too, about 8 to 10 children were present, all around 9, 10, or approximately 11 years old. There were both boys and girls among them. That old woman now came toward the beggar woman, waving her hands and saying something, to which the beggar woman responded. Now I started feeling anxious, and because of the anxiety, my body began to sweat. It felt to me that this was her entire gang and that this child-related business of theirs was spread far and wide. So many children were being kept captive by her. I returned from there to my shop, changed my clothes, took a deep breath, and tried to relax myself. After seeing all this, my mind was shaken. I couldn't understand what I should do. I gave the working boy a day off, closed the shop, and came home. Again and again, the faces of those innocent, crying children kept appearing before my eyes, who were imprisoned by that beggar woman. Who knows what she was going to do to them? Just thinking about it made my body sweat. I didn't talk to my children either. Earlier, as soon as I came home, I used to talk to my children and play with them. My wife sensed my distress. Seeing me silent, she asked, "What happened? Why are you so worried? You have never been this disturbed before." At first, I brushed it off saying it was nothing, but when she insisted, I told her everything, except the fact that I gave the beggar woman new clothes every day. If I had told her that, she would have thought I was foolish and would have started lecturing me, asking why I did it and why I gave away so many clothes for free. After hearing everything, she too started thinking deeply, because this was a matter of the lives of innocent children. Suddenly she said, the only solution is to inform the police about everything, so that they themselves can free the children from that beggar woman and return them to their parents. This way, your tension will also end, and the children will reach their parents. Hearing my wife's words, I started thinking. She was right. This was not a matter of just 10 or 12 children, but 20 to 25 children who were imprisoned by that beggar woman and were suffering away from their parents. I alone could not fight that beggar woman, and catching her entire gang would be very difficult. The police could handle the entire matter properly. If I got involved alone, I myself could get trapped in this case. After thinking over my wife's advice, I came to the conclusion that this matter should go to the police. The next day, when the beggar woman came again to take a suit, I gave it to her without saying anything. Then I made the working boy sit at the shop and left for the police station. After reaching the police station, I had to wait for half an hour. When the inspector became free, I went to him. After meeting the inspector, I told him everything. After hearing me, the inspector said that he himself would handle the case. The police officer said, "Just tell us the location of that place, or come with us." I told the inspector about the place and said that I would go with them so that I could see everything with my own eyes. I spoke with the inspector for a while longer, and then left. In the evening, after completing routine work, I received a call from the inspector saying that they were going to conduct a raid immediately so that the children could be rescued as soon as possible and returned to their parents. There was a risk that if they were late, the beggar woman might move the children elsewhere. At that very moment, I left for the police station and met the inspector. The inspector was fully prepared. A team of 15 police officers was ready, and as soon as I arrived, we all headed toward that deserted place. On the way, he asked me about myself, who I was and what I did. I told him everything about myself without hiding anything, because there was nothing to hide. Meanwhile, he kept talking about criminals, how people become enemies of one another and harm each other, killing, looting, and hurting others for their own benefit. He said that people have gone too far, thinking only of themselves and not caring about society. I agreed with the police inspector's thoughts. While talking, we reached the deserted area. The inspector stopped the vehicles a short distance away and instructed his police personnel to surround the huts from all sides. All the police officers surrounded the huts completely. I stayed inside the vehicle because the inspector had told me not to come out, warning that it could be dangerous for me. There was a possibility that the gang members could attack, and my life could be at risk. I remained seated inside the vehicle, watching their operation. The huts had been surrounded, and now the inspector was asking the beggar woman to come outside. Hearing the inspector's voice, that sharp-tongued woman and the young girl came out. The inspector said, "Immediately surrender yourselves to us." All three of them looked disturbed. Sitting at a distance, I was watching the expressions on their faces. That beggar woman was folding her hands and saying something to the inspector, but the inspector was shaking his head in refusal. After a short while, the children also came out of the huts. They were watching everything and crying. The inspector instructed his police personnel to arrest all three of them. All three of them were crying and pleading with folded hands, but the inspector ignored them, put handcuffs on all three, and placed them in the van. After some time, the huts were searched, but nothing significant was found. There was no attack of any kind. Perhaps the rest of the gang was hiding somewhere, or maybe they were not present there at all. All the children were crying, but they were soon seated in the jeep and then taken back toward the police station. I spoke to the inspector and took his assurance that he would deliver the children safely to their homes. A separate case file was prepared for this matter. All 3 of the accused women were sent to jail, and I returned home feeling very relaxed. I felt very happy from within because I had done a very good deed. After reaching home, I told everything to my wife. After hearing it, she also became happy, thinking that everything had gone well and no harm had occurred. I too thought that the helpless children would now be reunited with their parents. The next day, according to my routine, that beggar woman did not come, and how could she? She was in jail. I sat peacefully waiting for customers, but it was already 11 a.m. and not a single customer had arrived. I started looking at the shop across the road, where there was even more crowd than before. From afternoon till evening, only one customer came and bought just one suit. I became worried. It felt as if once again the same situation had started that used to exist before the beggar woman ever came to my shop. The next 2 days passed in the same way. No customers came to my shop at all. The earnings dropped to almost nothing. The boy who worked at my shop was also worried, thinking that if this continued, he would lose his job. I was worried too. If things stayed like this, I would not be able to keep him employed. How would I pay him a salary? Earlier, my shop never stayed empty. Now that she was not coming, my business had completely stopped. It felt to me as if I had been cursed by her. But how could she curse me? She didn't even know that I was the one who had exposed her secret to the police. I started remaining very troubled because day by day, even the people who used to come to my shop stopped coming. I would sit in my shop all day, swatting flies and waiting for customers. When I told my wife about my problem, she too became worried, but she had no solution either. We cannot force customers to come to our shop. One day, I casually called the inspector and asked about that beggar woman. He told me that she was not willing to open her mouth at all. All she kept saying was that all the children were her own, and that the young girl was her sister and the old woman was her mother, and they too were saying the same thing, that all the children were theirs. They have not kidnapped anyone, nor do they force the children to beg, nor do they sell children. They have no connection with any gang. The court has asked for evidence against the 3 of them, but no evidence has been found. Nothing has been recovered from their huts that could prove they were involved in any such activities. Hearing all this from the inspector's mouth, I was shocked. I asked, what happened to the children? Were their parents not found? They could testify whether these are their children or not. The inspector said that the parents of none of the children could be traced. Advertisements had also been placed in the newspapers, but so far no one had come forward to claim them. The children kept crying and saying that they wanted to go to their mother. I asked in surprise, who is their mother? The inspector replied that the children called the same beggar woman their mother, the very woman against whom you had said that she was keeping the children captive. They called that beggar woman their mother, the old woman their grandmother, and the young girl their aunt. The inspector was saying more, but I was already stunned after hearing just this much. What was really happening? I could not understand anything. I disconnected the phone. Something strange was hidden from our eyes. Even my heart started telling me that somewhere, something had gone wrong. Thinking about this again and again gave me a headache, but I could not find any clear explanation. Newspaper advertisements had been published for the children, but no one had claimed them, nor had anyone come to take them away. Thinking deeply, I handed over the shop to the working boy and went straight to the police station to meet the inspector, who himself seemed entangled in this case. As soon as he saw me, he sat up straight, and I sat down in front of him. Before I could say anything, he said, "The children are in a terrible state from crying. They only want to go back to their mother, grandmother, and aunt. Some of the children are older. I have questioned them. They said that their mother has never beaten them, and that they live with their grandmother and aunt. Not only that, the children said that ever since they became aware of the world, they have been living with these 3 women. The older children also said that sometimes their mother brings other children, and then they also start living with them and never leave. Our mother is very good. She provides us with food, water, shelter, and clothes. She loves all of us very much, and no outsider ever comes to meet us. Hearing the inspector's words, I became confused. I asked him, then what does all this mean? The inspector said, I feel that whatever you told us was just a misunderstanding. We have found no evidence against these 3 women. Surely, you must have been mistaken. He added, I was just about to interrogate those women when you arrived. I said, come on, I'll come with you too. I went with the inspector to where the 3 women were being held in the same place. Seeing their condition, I felt great pity for them. It was clear that the lady inspector had used physical force on them to make them confess. As soon as that beautiful beggar woman saw me, she hurried toward me and held the iron bars, saying, Sir, it's good that you came. I knew that my God would surely send someone as my helper to save us. And look, you have come. Seeing the blindfold of trust over her eyes, my heart was deeply shaken. The very person she considered her savior was me. In reality, I was the one responsible for bringing her here. The inspector silently watched us. I asked her, why do you keep so many children with you? After all, whose children are they? She said, all these children are my own. I said a little angrily, I know you are not married, and so many children cannot be yours. She replied, even if they are not my biological children, I have raised them. So they are my children. She continued, my father passed away when I was very young. We lived in huts even then and survived by begging. When my mother fell ill, I made this my profession because I could not do any respectable job anywhere. I made myself so strong that any man would think twice before casting an evil eye on me. When I went from street to street begging, I found many helpless children, children who had neither a mother's shadow nor a father's support. All these children slept on the streets and survived by begging. Some children were so small that they didn't even understand what they were doing. And some children I found were only 1 or 2 days old, perhaps born because of someone's sin. I would pick those children up from garbage dumps and raise them. I took care of them. Doing this again and again, I gathered 20 to 25 children with me. People abandon children without thinking how big a sin that is. It is the duty of the relatives of orphaned children to raise them, but in today's world, humanity seems to have died. As soon as children become orphans, even their relatives forget them. You can ask these children yourselves. I have raised them, along with my old mother and my sister. Hearing the beggar woman's words, I felt deeply ashamed of how wrongly I had judged her. The inspector withdrew the report submitted to the court, and the beggar woman, her mother, her sister, and the children were released. However, on his own initiative, the inspector kept an eye on them for some time. Everything turned out exactly as the beggar woman had said. With the help of some people, the inspector had a small house built for them in a nearby area, where she began living with all the children. She gave countless blessings to both the inspector and me. I too continued to send clothes and food supplies for those children. And then God's miracle happened again. Customers began flocking to my shop once more. Not only that, the inspector was also promoted. Now I understood that this was the reward of the good deed done for the poor. I began thanking God that I learned the entire truth in time. So friends, how did you like today's story? Do let us know. If you liked it, please like it. To hear more such stories, subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much to all of you for listening to the story till the end, friends.